At the stroke of midnight, Oma Sawa's body twisted and contorted, transforming into something dark and sinister. Her eyes glowed a fierce red as she prowled the darkened hallways of the Sunridge compound. Once a woman, now a black cat, she silently slipped into one tenant's room. Her presence unseen but unmistakable. Every month, a life had to be taken, a sacrifice for her children's success, and tonight another soul would pay the price. When the deed was done, she would return to her bed, her human form restored. No one would suspect the horror she carried within. By morning, the compound would erupt in whispers. One tenant would be found dead, no signs of violence, no struggle, just gone. Oma sat by the window of her small, dimly lit living room, gazing out at the crumbling building that had once symbolized her family's stability. The Sunridge compound she had inherited from her late father-in-law was an aging shell of the life she and her husband Kwesi had built. Tenants came and went, the rents were barely enough to keep a roof over their heads. When Kwesi had been alive, they had managed, just barely. But after his sudden death a few months earlier, everything had changed. She ran her fingers over the fabric of her worn chair, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She had 2 children, Kojo and Abina, and all she wanted was to see them succeed, to secure the future Kwesi had dreamed for them. But that dream slipped farther away each day. The rents from Sunridge weren't enough to feed them, let alone pay for better schools. She could feel their potential slipping away, filling her with dread. One afternoon as she walked to the market, heart heavy, Oma bumped into an old friend, Memia. They exchanged greetings above the clamor of the busy street. "Oma, how are you?" Memia asked, her voice soft and concerned. "I'm managing," Oma replied, voice tired. "It's been hard since Kwesi passed. I don't know how to make ends meet. The tenant's rent barely covers the bills. I can't give Kojo and Abina the future I promised." Memia's eyes narrowed, as if she had been expecting such words. She placed a hand on Oma's arm and whispered, "Meet me at my flat tomorrow night. I can help. I know someone who can give you what you want, what you truly need." Oma's heart skipped. She didn't know what Memia meant, but desperation made her agree. "I'll come," she said. The next evening, under the cover of darkness, Oma arrived at Memia's flat. Memia waited with eyes glittering. Without a word she led Oma through a narrow alleyway past shadowy figures until they reached an old building that served as a shrine, the old Harmattan shrine, pulsing with an ancient energy. "Where are we going?" Oma asked, trembling. "You'll see," Memia replied cryptically, her smile unreadable. They entered the shrine where candlelight cast long shadows. Women of all ages stood in a circle, faces shrouded. Oma's pause, her human hands already trembling with an unnatural awareness, quickened as she felt their gaze on her. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the center. "Welcome, Oma," it called, smooth and commanding. Oma's breath caught. The woman who spoke wore a flowy black robe and a dark veil. She stepped forward with an air of authority that filled the room. "I am Queen Adoma, leader of this circle," she said, her voice both gentle and terrifying. "We know what you seek, Oma. You seek a way to make your children successful." Oma was stunned. "How do you know my name?" she stammered. Queen Adoma let out a low, knowing laugh that echoed through the shrine. "I know many things, Oma. I know your heart aches for your children. I know the sacrifices you are willing to make for their future." Oma's knees grew weak. "I want them to go to good schools. I want them to have the future Kwesi dreamed of," she whispered. "You want it to be possible," Queen Adoma said, eyes gleaming. "I will grant your heart's desire. I will make your children successful beyond your dreams. But in return, you must make a sacrifice, one life, every month. You will take the life of one tenant from your compound." Oma's heart thudded. "What do you mean? How will I do it?" "The price is simple," Queen Adoma interrupted, voice cold and deliberate. "Each month you will turn into a black cat at midnight. You will slip into a tenant's room and attack them spiritually. They will die in their sleep from a spiritual assault. Their soul will belong to us. In return, your children will rise to heights of success. But you, Oma, will never taste the luxury of their success. You will remain tied to that house forever. You may receive gifts, but you will never leave. You will be the keeper of the souls that allowed their rise. That is the binding. Omo's mind spun. She had always dreamed of giving Kojo and Abina everything. Yet the cost, one life every month, felt unbearable. Could she really sacrifice an innocent person's life to secure her children's future? Her heart ached, thinking of Kojo's boundless curiosity and Abina's thoughtful quietness. The dream seemed within reach. In that moment of despair she agreed. "I do it," she said, voice barely audible. "I make the sacrifice." Queen Adoma smiled. The women around her began an eerie chant. Oma felt a cold settle deep in her bones. The spell completed, everything went black. Months passed, and the pact took effect. Oma stood in front of her small, crumbling home with pride as the news reached her. Kojo had earned a scholarship to study engineering in Europe and Abina had won a prestigious art scholarship abroad. The impossible had happened. Queen Adoma had kept her word. Their lives changed overnight. Oma prepared a grand meal, fried fish, jollof rice, freshly baked plantains, and the house brimmed with laughter. For the first time in months Oma felt peace. Her sacrifices seemed to have paid off. That night, when the clock struck midnight, the curse pulled at her again. Her body contorted, she became the sleek black cat, eyes glowing red. Her transformation unsettled her family, but she surrendered to the compulsion. The cat slipped through the compound like a shadow, choosing its target. This month's victim was Nana Efua, an elderly tenant who always greeted Oma with a smile. She lay fast asleep, unaware of the impending horror. Oma crept into the room, a suffocating invisible force enveloped Nana Efua. Her breathing became labored, she could not scream. The spiritual attack was too powerful. With a final gasp, Nana Efua's body went still. Oma, in cat form, watched coldly as the soul was claimed. Then she slunk away, returned to human form, smiled a twisted smile, and climbed into bed as if nothing had happened. By morning the compound exploded in chaos. Ada, Nana Efua's daughter, Ajoa, burst into the courtyard, wailing. Oma startled, feigning sympathy, as Ajoa clutched her mother's lifeless body. "She didn't wake up," Ajoa sobbed. Oma hugged her, voice full of false empathy. "I'm so sorry. We'll find a way to get through this." Inside, she felt only relief. Oma's ritual continued, chillingly regular. As months passed, her children flourished. Kojo's work gained recognition in Europe, Abina's art showed in galleries and her name spread. The scholarships allowed them to thrive. Yet for every victory they enjoyed, the Sunridge tenants fell into mysterious deaths. One tenant after another was found in their sleep with no signs of struggle. Almost nightly transformations became routine and a pattern began to attract attention. The deaths were too frequent and too strange. Tenants moved out in fear, but new ones kept coming, lured by almost ridiculously low rents. She needed victims, and cheap rent brought them. The compound grew heavy with unease. Neighbors exchanged nervous glances and spoke in harsh tones, but no one confronted Oma. She had become a respected figure, the mother of such successful children. Still, whispers rose. How could Oma's children be so rich while she remained in that decaying house? The contradiction sparked suspicion. Kojo and Abina noticed, too. They worried. They did not understand why their mother refused to leave the familiar house and live with them. Frustrated and determined to save her from that life, they devised a plan. "We need to get her out," Kojo said. "If she lives with us, she will see the life we've created and never want to go back." Abina agreed. They decided to spoil her, take her shopping, show her luxuries until she was seduced by the comfort of their world. They picked her up in a luxury car and drove for hours, smiling and pretending it was just a treat. When they turned down a quiet street, Oma gasped. A gleaming Hillcrest mansion stood before her, lights bright and welcoming. "Surprise, Ma," Abina said softly. "This is your new home." Oma's heart twinged. "No, you can't do this," she said, breathless. "I don't understand." Kojo spoke seriously. "You have sacrificed everything for us. You deserve to live in comfort." Stay with us. Oma shook her head, eyes distant. I'm attached to that house. I can't leave. Yet Abina blocked the door that night, they insisted. Oma lay in an unfamiliar bed in the mansion, heart racing. She couldn't sleep. The witch's voice rose louder in her head. Queen Adoma's words rang in her ears, you have defied the order. You must pay. Oma panicked. She begged the witch for forgiveness and pleaded to return home. Queen Adoma was unforgiving. It is too late, the witch thundered. You defied the order. You will bear the consequences. Before dawn, Oma fled the Hillcrest mansion, terrified and guilt-ridden. She raced back to Sunridge compound, the only place she felt she still had some control. As she neared the block, unease thickened the air, tension raised the hairs on her neck. Abina had been watching the deaths for months. Fear had seeped into her bones, she could no longer live waiting for her turn. She decided to act. Abina invited a pastor known for dealing with spiritual matters to the compound to pray for protection. The pastor arrived early, solemn and resolute. His presence seemed to shift the atmosphere. As he began to pray, Oma walked into the compound and saw him. She erupted in anger. What is this? What are you doing in my compound? She demanded, fist clenched. Abina stepped forward, apologetic but determined. Ma, I invited him. The deaths are too many. I called him to pray for us, to protect us. Oma's face twisted with fury. How dare you bring a stranger here? Do you own this place? I am your landlady. Get him out before I do something. The pastor, however, remained calm. You do not need to say anything else, he said. I have been called here to break the chains that bind this place. We will expose whatever witchcraft is taking lives here. As the pastor prayed, Oma screamed in sudden, sharp pain, a burning that started in her chest and spread outward. She clutched at her body, staggered, and cried, Fire! Something's burning me. Please make it stop. The pastor's prayers grew more fervent. The burning intensified until Oma begged to confess to make it stop. At the same time, disaster struck Kojo and Abina's businesses. Kojo's warehouse caught fire and burned, and Abina's gallery went up in flames. The siblings watched helplessly as the empire they had built from the cursed fortune collapsed into smoke. They rushed to their mother's compound with nowhere else to go. When they arrived, they found Oma on the ground, screaming in pain while the pastor prayed. The tenants gathered in silent shock. I will confess. Oma cried between screams. It was all for you. I made a deal with Queen Adoma. She promised you would be successful if I sacrificed one life every month. I turned into a cat. I killed one of the tenants every month. I did it for you. The compound fell deadly silent. Ajoa, the daughter of Nana Efua, stepped forward, face twisted with fury. So it was you, Oma. You killed my mother, she screamed. You pretended to comfort me while you were the one who killed her. You witch. The crowd erupted. The weight of Oma's words proved unbearable. The tenants unleashed their fury. You wicked woman, someone shouted. Another, how could you kill innocent people? Kojo and Abina stood frozen, processing the horror. Their mother, the woman who had sacrificed everything for them, had done the unthinkable. The price of their success was darker than they could imagine. As the cry swelled, Oma collapsed to the ground, tears streaming. Forgive me, she sobbed, I only wanted a future for you. With a final shuddering breath, Oma Sawa died. The compound fell silent. The pastor knelt, praying softly. May God forgive her and receive her soul, he said. He turned to Kojo and Abina, who stood in shock and sorrow. You must bury your mother quickly, he instructed. Repent and let God guide you. The gifts from evil never last. At that moment, the sky darkened unnaturally and Queen Adoma appeared, terrifying and imposing. Her body is mine, the witch thundered. Give her to me or suffer the consequences. The pastor stepped forward without fear, invoking the name of God. A burst of divine light erupted, overwhelming the shadows around Queen Adoma. She shrieked, Her power no match for the pastor's authority, the shrine was destroyed and the spirits scattered. Queen Adoma dissolved into the void. Peace slowly returned to Sunridge compound. The pastor cleansed the house and surrounding apartments. Though some tenants still harbored resentment toward Kojo and Abina, the immediate hostility faded as the siblings worked tirelessly, praying, studying, and serving God. They learned humility and worked honestly. Within 2 years, God blessed them again, this time with wealth and success that endured because it came from honest labor and faith, not from dark bargains. Their prosperity lasted because it was pure and earned. The story of Omasawa became a cautionary tale. Success gained through evil or shortcuts is temporary and destructive. Oma's sacrifices brought her children wealth and status, but at an unimaginable cost, the lives of innocent neighbors, her soul's torment, and ultimately her own death. Real blessings that last come from hard work, faith, integrity, and living rightly. Shortcuts and deals with dark forces may seem tempting in moments of desperation, but the consequences are inevitable and often worse than the problems we try to solve. Gifts from darkness do not last, gifts from honesty and God endure. Moral lessons. 1. Shortcuts built on harm and deceit will fail. Lasting success requires honest work, integrity, and responsibility. 2. Desperation can cloud judgment, but choices made under that cloud still have consequences for others. Consider the broader impact of your actions. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel.